cowboy guy, a little western, and Pirelli wants to.
Oh, I know.
So I was picking a bay colt. So this is out of a remnant.
Yep, and my dog.
Rico's.
Yeah, brother, yeah.
He's different from Rico, though.
Yeah, he's not near.
You can see the Hobbit.
Check 1, 2. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is McLean. It's a real pleasure to be here once again at Harrisburg. This is my second year. I'm an Australian horseman. I've been over in America now for 2 years. And I got to perform in this arena last year, and I also got to perform in the big arenas. I asked the organisers if I could get in this arena again, and they put me in here, which is great, but I probably should have said I would have rather to do this demo, probably in an open arena. This little fella here is a 2-year-old that's had a little bit of handling. He belongs to Peg and Terry from Evergreen Farm, and they bring them in as 6-month-olds and put them out 2 weeks where they handle them a little bit every day, and he's been out since then. He should be fine. I know Peg and Terry's program, and I know the breeding of this horse, but normally I would like to do it in more of an open area so the young horse is able to move his feet a little bit more. Very important to me in any of my young horse starting demonstrations or any of my young horse starting things that I do with my own horses, and every horse is important to me. I get to compete at Road to the Horse in 2 weeks, and I'll represent my country, Australia, and that's going to be very important to me, that young horse start. But no more important than this one, and no more important than the one I did when I started Hope, or Sequel, or Spin Abbey, or Pride, those horses that I have here to perform with. This was what sort of worried me a little bit about being in a smaller arena, is that a little horse can jam up a little bit, and he's got nowhere really to go, and then hold his feet still. When a horse goes quiet like that and stands dead still, it looks to you that they're nice and quiet, and why don't I just get on and ride them? But when a horse shuts down, that's when he'll make moves like that. Now this little pony here is by a beautiful paint stallion called Paint Me Hobby. I've started one of his 2-year-olds, and they're really nice. And then he's out of a Reminick mare. Now, I've heard of the Reminnicks. They're some of the best cow horses in the country. And I hear that they can be very quick-footed, and you want to be aware the first few times you hop on one. This little fella already shows me that I want to make sure that I have him feeling really comfortable before I get on him. Because not only is this surface fairly hard, but I'm pretty sure that nearly everybody has a phone, that I'll be on the YouTube clip very soon if he doesn't do the right thing. So the reason I went to the bag and stick is that I want to be more to this horse than all of you. I want to be more to him than anything that's worrying him. Because if I can't move him and I can't control his feet, I'll be on him and I won't be able to move him and I won't be able to control his feet. Even though I'm in a round yard like this, I'm working very much as though I'm not. I'm going to act as though I'm in that big open arena where I would normally start them, or in my paddock at home where I would start them. At Road to the horses will be unhandled. I think they get run into a chute and they get injections, but they've not been taught to lead. This horse was loaded on a trailer yesterday. Apparently he just followed Terry straight on, and he's a really sweet little horse. But I want to make sure that when I ride him in here or groundwork him, that the only thing that's holding him in is not the arena, but the rope and my lead. Here I'm going to stand still. Now throughout my work with any of my horses, whenever I stand still, I'm saying I stand, you stand. So let me put him back out on the circle and show you what I mean by that. While I'm moving, I want him to move his feet. It's very important to me that he does. And what I'm saying to myself the whole time is, can I ride this? At the moment I can ride that. I can ride that. When he did that real big leap before, I thought, oh, I probably couldn't ride that. Whenever I stop, I want him to stop, because that's what I want when I ride him. I'm going to be on him today before he's been mouthed, before he's been driven or anything like that, because it's not in my program to do it. And a lot of people might think that is dangerous. If I stop and he stops, it should be the same when I stop riding him. So if he wants to move here, that's fine. I actually love this. because if he's worried, this is how I want him to respond to fear, by moving in a soft forward circle around me and disengaging his inside hind foot. I don't want him to stand still and internalise things and then jump away. I want him to deal with all his fear like he's meant to. A horse wins all of his fights by at least 100 feet. He likes to outrun fear. And I want him to do that. I want him to move anytime he's frightened. And I will move him in such a way that very soon he will no longer be frightened. People say, how do you bomb-proof a horse? And I say, for starters, I don't want to, because to me, a bomb-proof horse is a dead one. And maybe later. So I'm going to stand still and bring this bag and stick up to him, and if I do it the same the other side, I want you to see that I'm doing everything I can to be safe for me and safe for him. I make my arms straight, so if he goes to jump, he'll either push himself away from me, he will push me away from him. That's not a problem for him already. Let's see what happens when I go past the blind spot in the middle of his head. This is why a horse shies and why he gets upset. Now you might say, why would he be worried about that? He had no problem. But it goes where it goes through that blind spot. These horses of Terry's and Peg's are very wide through the eyes here. They say that the width between the eyes will tell you that the horse has got a lot of intelligence. What it will also tell you is that he has a huge blind spot. That blind spot means that he can't see the bag anymore. Then he can, then he can't. So that's why a horse will shy and throw his body left and right, is to see the bag out of both eyes. So though this is valuable to me, and it makes me know that when I stand still, he's to stand under some pressure, I still need to have a lot more control before I want to get on him. Whether or not I'll get walk, trot and canter on him today, just got my white hide whip, please mate. Walk, trot and canter on him in this little arena, I don't know. I had 2 days with him in here. If I was in the big arena, I would have had him for 4 days, but I think I'll get about as much as I need to do in the next 2 days in here. And then I'll go to Peg and Terry's on Monday and I'll ride him up in their big arena and be cantering circles on him. So I'm standing still, he's standing still. I hold my hands he's straight, and if he wants to move, he's allowed to move in the same manner. Some horses will run around crazy. If we just come in and did it, he would have done it at the start. Did you see he get a little bit worried? And he moved 2 steps and he said, but you're not moving. And that's worked well for me in the past. So I'll see if I can build that pressure up. Now, even though that's really nice, there's still going to be moments where this horse is sticky. I want to make sure that he'll do it while he's moving. When I stand still, I want him to stand still. Now I'll get horses that are high-level competition horses. When I used to do a lot of clinics, which I don't anymore, they would bring me high-level competition horses that are winning at events that won't allow me to do this. I call this basics and start of advancement, and that doesn't mean for the horse because, or for the rider, because I'm asking huge things from this young horse. But this is the basics that I want on every horse that I ride. When you see me tomorrow night in the Theatre Equus, you'll see me do things with my horses that you may have seen before here, or you may never have seen. That's because the foundation is handling these kinds of pressures. If you have a 10-year-old and wanted me to ride it, and it had been ridden its entire life, I would go and put my basics on it before I rode it. So once again, I go back to that, do I want to ride this? If he jumps away when I'm riding him like that, I'm going to grip with my legs around his belly and I'm going to create a problem. So I wouldn't want to get on him until he's doing the moves that I would want to ride. When I stop, he stops.
How are you doing? Good. How are you?
Now this can look very exciting that he's just doing some lovely things, but we need to know that when we work with a young horse, that we're actually asking them to change their natural instinct. A horse's natural instinct is to run from anything that's fearful and to push into pressure as much as he possibly can. It's not natural for a horse to lead when you pull on his face. Peg and Terry have done that sort of handling with him. They tell me how little they've done, but you can see that what they've done has been very high level and good common sense horsemanship. So now I'm going to test it. A lot of the way we start young horses, is enough. You can get away without doing these things. But if you want to live in my world, and my world's performing at the biggest shows around the world, it's performing with spotlights and and fireworks and all the things, riding in street parades. You know, if you want to do those kinds of things, you need to prepare your horse. This horse here will more than likely go on to a show in life. He'll probably do a little bit of dressage, a bit of reining, a bit of Western pleasure. Peg and Terry's horses are renowned for that. But I want to make sure that he's safe and comfortable. The first time I do this on a young one, that's as probably least a response as you'll get. And why would I do that? Because if he's a show horse, he's going to be blanketed. There's nothing worse than you see a horse with a blanket on and another horse pulls it over their head and your high-level $20,000 horse runs through a fence and has to be put down. So I do this to make sure that if he gets his head underneath something, that he's relaxed. Don't have to do this. Most of what I'm doing today would make me very nervous to think that you would go home and try and do it. I'm not telling you that you should, but I'm telling you that I cannot get the results that I get without doing this. I cannot believe in my horses in the areas and situations I put them in my life without doing this. So, depends on how far you want to take it. What we need to know is until a horse can handle everything, until a horse can believe in us under every situation, he's not safe. My biggest goal when I work with any horse is to have him ultimately safe first, because if he's safe, he'll be safe for the rest of his life. And by that I mean, if he's safe and never hurts me and we can put children on him and people can ride him and love him, he will be looked after forever. If he bucks, if he kicks, if he bites, if he rears, someone will sell him to someone who won't look after him and he'll end up in someone's belly. So I need to make sure that he's safe before I worry about anything else. It's wonderful to have a horse stop and turn really nice, to have one do flying changes every stride. But if he's not safe under all pressures, he's not valuable to me. I need to know that I can keep him safe. So if he keeps me safe, we can look after each other a lot better. A lot of people in that instance would let that horse lower his head and smell it. I'm not going to, and I'll tell you why. If I do that throughout my training, there will be hundreds of things throughout my horse's life that he will not understand and that he'll want to stop and smell. And I've seen horses that are trained that way, where you let them go to the thing and you let them stop and smell it. It takes them all day to ride them down the road. As I say to mine, I've already checked that out. I know there's nothing under there, and you need to believe in me. And he won't believe in me until he's gone over it a couple of times. But remember, he's been on a trailer, this little horse, so he's already fairly nice. All I want to do is keep him moving. And I could get after him, but I'm not really wanting to. I want to continue to progress with him. Can I have that rope, please? So my next thing would be to ride him. It would be to put a saddle on him and give him a ride. So now I'm going to progress into something that will set me up for that, but it'll also help him with forward movement. At the moment, I'm calling everything that I'm doing riding from the ground. And so everything he does as he goes around me, I'm looking for the same shape and softness as when I ride him. At the moment, he's had nothing around his belly to represent a girth or to represent my feet. I'm so terribly impressed with him, how he's handling everything, and I haven't done it yet, but I'll just get you to help me with it now. And I'll make sure the rope's not going to do anything. I'll just get you to clap and cheer and see what he does. Wonderful. So he gave a little bit of a jump forward and then he stopped. Now my plan is by the end of the demo, if it all works good like it does with most of them, my plan by the end of the demo is that he does something that makes you want to clap. And therefore I want him to feel safe. You can see very quickly that he lets me get that rope around his belly. And you'll notice that when I work with two, I don't spend an awful lot of time working on one thing over and over again. If I can get something going once, see, I call this very much like an alphabet. And if I'm teaching a child the alphabet, I won't get him to say A 40 times. I'll get him to say A, then I'll teach him B. So what I've done now is for the first time I've put a pressure around his belly that represents my legs if for some reason they go back there. Now you might say, well, you're a bad rider if you put your feet back there. I don't know of a rider that one time in his life won't put his feet back there. I started a young horse and I didn't do this with him. And he rode beautiful. He walked, trot and cantered and did everything lovely. and we put a 10-year-old child on that does roping.
Yeah.
He put both feet back there and got bucked off. And he said, you told me he didn't buck. And I said, but I never put my feet there. So I learned to ride and to train on my father's resort, and I would take rides there every day, and we would have guests ride, and they would sit somewhere between their ears and their tail if they were lucky. So I needed to know that we could do this. Now some horses will get terribly stingy with this. What I'm loving about it is I know I can even ride that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm such an athlete, I can even ride that. But I tell you what, if he dropped and spun and did some awful things, I wouldn't be able to ride that. So the reason I put this rope around his belly is so I can drive him forward. Did you notice when he turned in towards me, he lost all forward movement? That's when a horse will really buck, is when they can't go forward anymore. When he's travelling around me, he's fine. The reason I want to do that is just so I can hold him with my hand and guide him with the rope. Now, some of you may think that I'm teaching this horse to buck. I'm not teaching him to do that at all. It's the first thing he wanted to do when I put that rope on. It was natural instinct. That's a sensitive part of my body, get away. I'm teaching him to go forward off of that rope. It doesn't matter what he does over the next 3 minutes. It only matters what I release him at. If I take the rope off when he's walk, trot and canter, that's what I've taught him to do. If I take the rope off when he's buck and kick, that's what I've taught him to do. It's the last thing we do that's the first thing the horse remembers. Now I would love to send him around and send him over that mooring groundwork. He doesn't want to do that, so I just will get what I can from him, and then I can refine that to where I need it to be. And he's been over the tarp now enough for it not to be a scary object or a scary thing for him, but he's just saying, I respect my fear for the tarp more than I respect you a little. So I make sure that I take that a little bit to heart, and I say, well, it's really nice of you, but this tarp is dead. It's not alive, it didn't go to school, it didn't know what I know, so you don't need to respect it. You need to respect me, and I will look after you. So everything up until there, probably the tarp over the head and the flank rope, you don't need to do. And this here, I would probably prefer you didn't do. For starters, your horse will go very fast when you do it the first time. And I have heard of horses, after I've done a show in an area, I've heard of horses passing Ferraris with a tarp on the top. But I want to know if my horses can handle these sort of pressures. Because if he was mine, this horse would have to go out in the arena in about 3 or 4 months and have to do a tarp act. He'd have to lay down and let me put horses over him. What I really love about him is that he's, even in this small arena, he's trying to go forward. You notice I don't let him get to the pen? And something I'm really being aware of is that I don't go until he loses energy. I want to make sure with him that he continues to move and I quit before he stops. I'm making a few little excuses for him, I suppose. Going over that tarp, I'd normally like him to flow a bit more, but I want to have plenty of force left when I climb on him. I don't want to do 2 days and get him, sullen in this arena, because I could ride him in an open arena at Peg and Terry's and do more for him. I want to show you where you have to start at to get the sort of things that I do, but I don't want to sacrifice him for it. I stop, you stop. Now a little Arab or a thoroughbred, they will run around kicking at that tarp. So this little fella here is doing some nice things, but as the Arab and the thoroughbred runs around kicking at it, I get to put more control on their head. I get to get more softness through their rib cage. This little fella here at the moment is saying, I'm really lovely, will you just get on? And I'm thinking there's way too many cameras to just get on. Well, at least to get on and to walk, trot and canter on him. Now I used to, my best horse, Hope, was started this way. I worked him in an arena a little bit bigger than this, and I got him to follow me around. He'd been handled probably 3 or 4 times. And I got him to follow me around, and then I hopped on him and I rode him first day, riderless and saddleless in the arena, and he carried me around really nice, but all he did was carry me. I'm not doing that today. Here I'm going to put my right arm over his back. This is the first time that he would feel that pressure over the top of his back like my other leg. when my leg goes there and closes him. That's the first time, other than going on the trailer, that he would be really closed in like that. Now I'm going to bend his nose as much as he'll allow me. This is the first time I've asked him to hold his feet and give his nose. You'll notice that I keep my feet away from his front feet. It's very easy to learn this. All you need to do is to do it a few times barefoot. Then you'll get to the stage where you can work a really good circle like this. So I'm very good at keeping my feet out of the way. And you know, when I first started doing it, if I had a problem, I would just get into a fight here. Now I just go back out and ask for the things I need him to be soft. If I can get this inside hind foot travelling in underneath his belly, I will have more of his neck. Because you can see that while he's stepping back, he stays quite stiff. The moment he gives that hind foot, he bends up through the rib cage more. Now, is he bending through the rib cage and softening because he really likes me and he's been on my Facebook page and he's seen me on RFD TV and he really likes the way I look in my Australian hat? Or is he bending so he doesn't have to step his hind foot away? Everybody thinks that a horse does what he does to benefit the rider. I'm sorry, but you're all wrong. He does what he does to benefit himself. He's doing the very best he can to make himself feel comfortable. And don't we all do the same? I can tell you that I've come here only to benefit you all. But I've come here hoping you'll buy my DVD so I can pay my loan off in Australia. I have come here to help the horse in a way, but I do things that benefit myself. And that's what we want him to do. I want him to find a benefit in carrying me around this arena. I do not want him to find a benefit in jumping over my body on the ground. So I can do the same there. You'll notice something that I do that's a little bit different. And there's a lot of things that I do are different because I wasn't trained under one particular trainer and I didn't go to shows or anything until I was 20, so I was fairly developed in my horsemanship method on my own. I will bend them and make sure we can move the feet. This is pretty. That's really nice. That's soft and supple. I've had horses gallop away with their head there, but it's very hard for him to gallop anywhere if I own this foot. I've never seen a horse's head and neck buck somebody off, and I've never seen a horse's head and neck win a race or win a cutting event. It's always the feet. Because he's only little, he's only just 2, I'll see how much he handles this and I might just go straight to the saddle. But I stand still. I'm sorry for those having to look at that. I stand still, you stand still. He said you're not standing, but I'm not moving either. So a lot of people would get down and then get back up and get down. I sort of find it easier to just keep moving on. If I thought he was really bad, I wouldn't. For those of you who would like to see me fall off, I want you to keep your hands very still and no clapping. So all the stuff I've done up until this moment is for him to say, why didn't you just do this before? Why didn't you just get on? Because I'm not having to do anything. Now, if I did that for 5 days in a row, and then I told him to move, he'd say, I don't think so. All I do is stand still. I had a beautiful stallion that's the father of my brilliant horse, Spin Abbey. Thanks, mate. And he was 16 months old when I bought him, and I didn't want to start him till he was 2.5, but I could not help myself. And I would get on him and sit on him. I'd ground work him and sit on him 3 or 4 times because I just was so excited. He had the best bloodlines I'd ever seen and I was so thrilled. So I could sit on him and I could crack a whip and do all that. And the day came where I thought he was old enough. He was bigger than this horse. And I got on him and rode riderless and saddleless because I wanted to give him the best opportunity I could. And I asked him to go forward and he stood up like Roy Rogers' horse and struck at the air because I hadn't told him to move yet. So I got down, chased him another circle, then I hopped on him again and asked him forward and he walked try to be keen around the arena. Sometimes we've got to make sure that we don't want to go too far with a young horse, I understand that. But we have to go far enough that the horse knows that there's a job. If I turn up to work for somebody and they say, Guy, don't bother doing anything, just go and sit down and have a cup of coffee, have 3 donuts and watch some television. If they do that for 4 or 5 days and then tell me to work, the next day I come in, I'll be looking for my cup of coffee and for my donut. You'll notice there that I have the same rigging set up as any Western saddle. This saddle here is an Australian stock saddle, it's a half breed. You notice that I was able to click it up very quickly. I've got a good friend here called Jack Horsey Jack has developed something called the cinch hook, which is very much like your tackleberry over here. It's also very much like our baits rigging from home. And that allows me to get up and on a young horse very quickly. Now what I'm going to do with him is see if we can't move him around. Now it's all up to me, all up to what he does for me now on what he's going to do when I ride him. And if I only wanted to ride him around here at a walk, already he's got enough. But if I want to walk, trot and canter, I'd be very silly to hop up and down and expect it to be there. So I'm going to actually get away from him because I don't want to have to keep popping on him. He's been such a sweet little man that I don't want to just having to keep smacking him with the lead. So I would imagine, and I'd be kind of upset if he doesn't jump and lead just a tiny bit with this. If for some reason he does jump out of the arena, I'd just like you to throw him back in and then I'll keep going. So I started a horse of Peg and Terry's the other day that was by a horse called Smart Play, who was by Smart Chickalina. I got that cinch hook done up really quickly and he got the bucking as soon as I got it done up. So this fella here doesn't look to be the same. Now this would excite a lot of people. Doesn't excite me at all. It sort of worries me a little because he doesn't know what that saddle feels like if he is to leap and jump. If he doesn't know what it feels like, he'll feel it when I'm on him and then he'll tell me he doesn't like it. Okay, I would have fallen off then. So remember I say, I can ride that, I can ride that. As long as I know where it's going, I can ride pretty much any movement a horse can put if I know where that horse is going. But if I'm looking right and the horse goes left, I normally stay right. People say to me how good my balance is. I say that's because my horses never lead centre. My horses are always underneath me. So I'd like him to flow up here. Because I was going, that was good. I really liked the way he stretched and came through then, because that would have bit him as hard as it could, that girth. You're a darling boy. Very nice. Now, as far as which way he turns to me, Peg and Terry breed really wild horses. You've got to watch them, they're terribly wild. No, that's fine. So, oh, I hope you've got a brother that rode to the horse. You darling little boy. But once again, and I want you to know this has got nothing to do, I haven't joined up with him or got him to follow me around, and he's had very little work. But he's saying, when I go around you, I have to canter. If I follow you and make you think you're nice, I get to walk. And I'm going to see here if my groundwork means anything. When I stop, you keep walking.
The ace is kicking in.
Oh yeah.
I used to start a lot of them in a one-rein holder very much like this. The reason I start them in a one-rein holder is because of all the control I had on the ground just before. All the control I had on the ground was with just with one rein. When we put a horse in two reins and we long rein him and he wants to run off, he can pretty much make a ski all around the arena. One rein I can get to disengaging him fairly quickly. This here is the smallest girth that I own, and I'm going to have to go up on the other side. So Peg and Terry have a program where they start them in their 2-year-old year. They give them 2 or 3 weeks riding, and I've seen their 2 or 3 weeks riding. It's really beautiful, and you can see the horses developing so nice. Then they rest them, they come back in as a 3-year-old, and then away they go to work. So I started the young horse on a YouTube clip to show me preparing one for Road to the Horse on how I'm going to do it. People said how it was too much for a 2-year-old. For this horse to go on and work now for 3 years in a row is way too much. For him to have a couple of weeks and then rest for a year, it's perfect. His mind is like a sweet little sponge, and it's going to soak up all the good things. You wait till 3 or 4, the sponge already has some grime in it. It starts to get a little bit harder. I want him to be as soft and lovely as this with more strength as a 3-year-old. If that's what he wants to do when he gets worried, if that is how he wants to express a dislike for the saddle. Oh, I like him. I haven't asked him to back up at all. Good boy. Peg and Terry obviously have done a bit of that. I'm going to see if we can ask him to travel away, and I'm going to start with the whip fairly strong. And you know, that would look really tough, but at the moment that means nothing to him. If a horse allows me to do that with such a loose rein, that's like yelling in the ear of a deaf man. It doesn't really mean anything. I'm going to be as tough as I need to be and then go as soft as I can. You watch me with one of my horses, if I raise the whip, they trot off because they know how to stop me doing it. This fella here, he just sort of goes a little sullen and he doesn't want to move himself, and though it can look quiet, I need him to be obedient. This horse can walk, trot, canter, stop, kick and turn all at his own when he wants to, and I don't want him to do any of that when I'm on him. So normally I probably wouldn't be going to step up on him, and that's the problem with horse starting, is there's no A to Z thing of doing it. If I had a horse that was real buzzy, I'd want a lot more handle on him. Because this horse is sweet and I do the right thing, and I'm fairly confident that when I get on him, I can hop on him and move that inside hind foot out of the way. I don't want to just be tough on him and running him around and knocking more air out of him. I have enough on him that I'll be able to bend him to a stop if I need to. So I'm going to stand up here, and Australian stockman will get on from the shoulder here. I'm sort of make that little difference so I can look at his ears as I climb on. His ears is a gateway to his mind in a lot of instances. I'm not going to spend too much time sitting still. I'm going to ask him to move this hind foot just a step. Now if he takes that inside hind foot underneath his body like that, as far as I'm concerned, he's going forward. Here I'm not going to let him get too fast, because if he gets too quick there, he'll get himself worried. So I'm going to ride him very much like a groundwork him. I'll take pressure off and ride with my hand forward and feed to him and let him step up. I'll move this inside hind underneath a step. If I can move it away underneath his body, then I can ask him to move it up underneath his body. Now I would love walk, trot and canter in here, but if he doesn't give me any more than walk and trot today, I'll be happy with it for the situation that it is. I don't want him giving himself a fright and falling down. You'll notice my focus is right between his ears. I could sit up here and look ahead and look pretty, but I don't want to be sitting on the ground saying, I wish I saw that coming. So that's his first trot. And I keep my hand forward. He's trying to make sure that my rein stays loose on his little face. He doesn't want me pulling on him. That's why a horse fights and pulls against our hand, is so we don't pull on him. You notice I stay busy when he slows down, and then I go dead still when he's nice. Let's see if the groundwork meant anything. Can I guide him through the middle of that circle? I put him back out on the ring. Guide him through the middle of that circle. I don't want to ride a young horse and be a passenger. I always want to be a driver. Here I'm going to sit and stop.